Welcome back to my channel, YouTube. Listen, we're gonna jump right in here. I don't wanna waste your time. I think this is really important. This is a great video. I'm dropping value. This is my version of Tonkotsu broth ramen with handmade noodles. Now, here's the thing. This is non-traditional, okay? But it's my take, and I'm putting into a recipe that you can do at your house. So it's gonna start 24 hours in advance. You're gonna need to get some pork bones, specifically knuckles, and roast these off. Get them in a pot, cover them with cold water, and let this simmer for 24 hours, okay? Now, very important, this is me the next day. I'm gonna strain it off, and as you can see, the broth is not boiling. It's pretty much staying right at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And I left all the fat, all the scum, everything on, right? You want to strain it, and then from there, we're gonna put it back onto the stove, okay? And then it gets really easy. So I think what's really important is to know that usually traditionally you don't roast the bones, but if you don't want to roast the bones, just bring them up in water, pour off the first round of liquid, cover them cold, and then repeat that process. But I think roasting the bones develops so much more flavor. And I know it's non-traditional, but I really enjoy it. I mean, this broth is good just like this. It's crazy. Anyway, from there, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a few slices of bacon and also an onion split in half, and that's what's gonna develop that porky flavor. You can also substitute pork fat, but I really like the flavor and the depth of bacon, so I just put it right in there, and I'm gonna let this simmer to develop flavor. All right, and then so basically from there, it's that easy. Listen, let this come up to a simmer. You wanna develop the flavor a little bit, reduce the stock down just a touch. All right, and then from there, we're gonna jump into these noodles. Okay, I'm gonna leave everything down in the description, but I think what's really important to know is that it's all about ratios here. You know, I think when I learned how to make ramen noodles, I didn't make them by hand, but today I learned a valuable lesson. So let's just go over the ingredients real quick. I have 500 grams of bread flour, okay, 200 grams of cold filtered water, and then I also have 5 grams of kosher salt and 5 grams of potassium carbonate. Now, if you don't have potassium carbonate, which you probably don't, you can substitute baking soda, but what you need to do is bake off the baking soda at 250 degrees for at least an hour, hour and 15 minutes, okay? Let it cool down, and then you can substitute with that baking soda. Everybody has baking soda, so I think that's a good idea. Now, this is a good substitute. Now, for the flour, as you notice, I am not, for the dough, I think this is really important. I'm not developing too much gluten. I'm using 2 chopsticks, and I'm literally just hydrating the flour. And you know, I think this is a great way to like not get your hands dirty and not warm up the flour with your hands. And so basically, I'm just ever so gently, you know, making circles and trying to hydrate this. Now, what's really important here is there's no eggs, but ramen is all about the hydration in noodles, and I know Tonkotsu has a lower hydration, but honestly, I wanted to make this really simple for you at your house. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to cryovac it. As you can see, it's still crumbly. Now, if you don't have a cryovac machine, use a Ziploc bag, but make sure you press it. I think this is really important. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cryovac this, and I'm gonna get it underneath a cast iron pan, and I'm just gonna let it hang out for at least an hour. All right, half an hour. You kind of have to play with it, but from there, we're gonna make our ramen sauce. Now, all the ingredients will be in the description below, weights and everything that I used. And I think what's important to note is like, this is kind of non-traditional, but I'm using what I have in my house to kind of develop the same flavor profile. And for me, that's very umami rich. So you will see, I have shoyu, I have mushroom soy, I have rice vinegar, I use fish sauce, I use, this is mirin, I use Shaoxing wine. I really think what's really important is knowing that this is non-traditional, and I respect the tradition, but at the same time, this is what I have in my house. You might not have these ingredients, but I highly suggest you get them. Get them in a small amount, because you can use this virtually for a lot of things, and I think it's kind of important. Now here, this is definitely not traditional. I'm adding a little bit of honey, and I'm also gonna add some dry shiitake and some kombu. And I think what's really important, again, to note, like, you know, as a chef, you know, we change and we alter things, but I think what's really important is to know the tradition. And this is not my first time making ramen. You know, I've made all types of different ramen. I've learned from a couple different masters, I would say, that I've asked plenty of questions, and I know and I respect the tradition. This is just my own take, the homemade version. So anyway, moving on. I am gonna remove the bacon, remove the bits, and I think this is another very important tip. Tonkotsu broth is known for its creamy, fatty pork flavor and texture. And so what I like to do is I really like to highlight this. And make sure that emulsion is there, 100%, never fails. So what I do is I skim off most of this fat, and I'm gonna take a little bit of the stock, and I'm gonna blend this on high and add stock as I go, and you will see it will start to turn a bright snow white, and it's amazing. And it's such an easy way to emulsify the fat into the broth, right? So as you can see, this is just all stock and fat, okay, that is white like this, and it's amazing. And from there, I'm gonna add it right back to the liquid. And here's the thing, you can always not do this, and you can just boil the stock and it will emulsify by itself, right? But I feel like when you boil a stock, or when it's like a rolling boil, you start to lose some of the beautiful aromatics that you developed from those roasted bones. And you know, this is just my personal preference. All right, so again, we're moving on. I'm seasoning with some shoyu or soy sauce. If you just have soy sauce, that's fine. I'm also gonna use MSG. Don't come at me. I like using MSG, okay? I use it very sparingly, but it's a good way to season, not to overcompensate, but it's a way to bring out savoriness in something. Next, we're gonna move on. As you can see, I'm tasting, and then boom, straining my ramen sauce. And now look how dark this came out, but I'm totally fine with it. I think I would have preferred to use a white shoyu, but you know, hey, there's always next time. Next, we're gonna go into making our noodles. Now, my high suggestion is do not do this by hand. I learned a valuable lesson. It was very difficult for me to roll this out. I had to let it rest. It was so hard, but to get to this took me about a half an hour, no lie. So I think what's really important is to, if you have a pasta attachment, use it. If not, just buy the attachment for the KitchenAid, because it's so worth it. But I did it by hand because I'm a G, and I actually prefer thick noodles with my ramen, only because it's just the texture. And I mean, shoot, I would have made these udon if I could, but this was very difficult, so I highly suggest if you're gonna do this, get the sheeter. Trust me, it's worth it. And as you can see, I just folded it up, and I'm gonna cut this pasta. Another pro tip is let the pasta rest after you cut it. Trust me, if I had more time, I would have let this rest, but it was literally midnight when I was making this, so you know, I just went with it. Now, as you can see, these are thick. Traditional tonkotsu is served with thin noodles, but at the same time, I'm at my house, this is what I'm doing. I'm slicing some garnish, and I've already done all of my other garnishes. I think this video is just based on, okay, the noodles being handmade and the broth being made from scratch. The ramen sauce being made from scratch. As you can see, I got some hot sauce, I got some crispy onions, scallions, and egg. And I also have some char siu pork that I caramelized with the blowtorch. Money, it came out so good, to be honest. And I'm gonna go down with my ramen sauce. Then you go in with the broth. And I mean, look at this broth, right? It's like, dude, you know this tastes good. I mean, look at the fat sticking in the deli cup. I add a little bit more just because I'm extra. And as you can see, it is a little bit dark, but I'm telling you, the flavor in this broth is unbelievable. The fresh noodles were the game changer in here. As you can see, they're a little bit thick, but I'm telling you, they were amazing. That's the pork. There's the soy marinated egg. All right, I just cooked those for 6 minutes, peeled them, and then marinated them in soy sauce and a little bonito flake, but you don't have to do that. Next, the scallions. And listen, I like cutting my scallions super fresh, right? The fried onions, I'm telling you, this was amazing. I can't believe it came out so good. You should make this at your house if you can. I'm telling you, it's really good. I'm gonna leave the procedure, everything down in the comment section. That I'm just adding a little bit of seaweed. I like to cut the seaweed in half because nobody eats the big square. I mean, come on. You gotta it has to be reasonable, but I really enjoyed making this. I think it's really important to know, as a chef, I get really excited to make things that aren't really in my wheelhouse, and I use my chef touch, but I think it's really important to also respect the tradition, okay? And look at this. Tell me you don't want to eat this. Look at that broth. I'm telling you, I absolutely crushed this. I mean, I can't wait to make this again. It was amazing. So, thanks for watching. If you stayed all the way till the end, thank you so much. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like for the YouTube algorithm, and you know what it is. Let's go.
Oh my God. These noodles, man. I don't care if it says thick noodles, yo. Thick noodles. This broth is different level. Sorry, but I need to go sit down to enjoy this.